Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer. Take a trip into the macabre world of goth modeling in the new millennium in this spooktacular Spinsterella story. Pick up your copy of Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Better get the coleslaw, y'all, cause we're having us a barbecue. There's a narrative being pushed by those on the far right trying to say that many young men are not looking for work and are looking to be stay-at-home sons. Now, this whole narrative is something that many on the far right are looking to push around a Jeopardy contestant named Brendan Liao, a young Asian man who came on Jeopardy and won $59,000 on an episode of Jeopardy and said that his occupation was a stay-at-home son. Now, ever since this young Asian man, Brendan Liao, said that he was a stay-at-home son, what the far right is looking to do is trying to frame a narrative around that whole episode and trying to make a generalization about Western men, saying that many young Western men don't want to work and they basically want to be stay-at-home sons who stay in their mother's house. Now, I know from years of doing research for books that I've written, like The Man Crisis, that when it comes to many young men do want to work. Unfortunately, when it comes down to America's whole economic infrastructure, it is not interested in investing in any of those men and hasn't been interested in investing in any of those men even before the days of the Great Recession. Now, before the days of the Great Recession, I myself wound up losing a job and was a struggle to even get that job as related to the City University of New York hiring pool due to all of the discrimination against men, especially heterosexual black men, as related to those civil service jobs because of gynocentric preference from many women who use their female own group preference to be able to deny men based on a false narrative of so-called oppression by the system of America. And they want to go out here and look to make things equal by going out here and using their female own group preference to go out here and hire more women and deny men an opportunity to be able to have a full-time job. That's what many of these pundits and platforms like Fox News and the Wall Street Journal, who ran with this narrative, don't want to tell you what's going on behind the scenes that I know has been going on behind the scenes ever since the days before the Great Recession, over 17 years ago, when I last had a full-time job, that many of these employers basically are going out here and looking to deny men opportunities to work. And ever since then, we've had 6 to 7 million men basically wind up being full-time unemployed because they cannot go out here and get themselves a full-time job due to the economic infrastructure designed to keep men out of the workforce. Now, this whole economic infrastructure that was designed to deny men an opportunity at being able to access the job market was designed all the way back in the 1950s and the 1960s, when many of the wealthy, what they wanted to do was go out here and change the entire American family. And as they look to change the entire American family, they look to take the father out of the role that God established for him as the head and the steward and the protector and the provider. They look to take the man out of his place, and they look to put the woman in that place so that they could go out here and be able to gain access to their children through the media on television. They look to go out here and be able to take that father out of the home and take him out of his role by looking to promote the feminist movement in the 1960s. And as they look to push the feminist movement, they look to push the man out of his leadership role as related to work. And that's one of the reasons why many of these boys, again, don't have a model for being a worker, one, and two, don't have a person to show them an example of work. Two, they don't have an individual looking to go out and look to try to help that young man to be able to find their first job, because over 94% of jobs are usually found through contacts. That's what other people don't tell you, that usually it's who you know that gets you in, and usually a father is going to go look out for his son and help him get a job. And with the father out of the home, there's nobody to go out here and help the son, because when it comes down to women, in most cases, women basically coddle their sons. And basically this boy who was on Jeopardy, he's a textbook case of what a YouTuber named Liana Kie called in one of her comedy sketches an Asian F-boy. And those Asian F-boys basically are guys who just sit around all day doing nothing because mama coddles them. And since the father isn't in the home to demand excellence of that son, what happens to that son is he winds up staying on the couch and winds up doing nothing as related to life. And that's what happened in the black community as well, as related to the feminist movement and black women embracing the feminist movement and the welfare state. Many of those boys, because there was no father in the home, did not go out here and have an incentive to go out here and work, because mom would go out here and either use her welfare money or she would use the money at her job to go out here and pamper her son. And that basically wound up making that boy completely soft. But that's what the feminist movement basically wanted. And the feminist movement wanted to make what they call the socially engineer a kinder, gentler, softer male. What they wanted to do was create this kinder, gentler, softer male. And the wealthy wanted this as well. The wealthy basically wanted a kinder, gentler, softer male. And they wanted that because what they wanted to do was be able to eliminate economic competition that wouldn't take away their wealth, the same way their grandfathers and great-grandfathers lost their wealth during the Gilded Age. Now, during the Gilded Age, we had a lot of these wealthy types who basically wound up losing all of their wealth as they basically wound up living these lavish lifestyles, building these elaborate, expensive mansions. And as they wound up building up all of these expensive mansions and living these lavish lifestyles, eventually what happened was their whole financial situation deteriorated. And as many of these people got older, their whole fortunes basically went away. And what the wealthy want to do is try to maintain their wealth, hoping that by eliminating a competition here in America, what they can do is basically be able to maintain their wealth for a couple more generations. That's what they believe they can do. And some are even delusional to believe that they can go out here and live to eternity. But the way they believe they can maintain their wealth is by going out here and not investing in the men, but by going out here and investing in the women. And that's what America has been doing for the last 60 years, looking to go out here and invest in the women, looking to invest in the women, one, because they want to go out here and have a group of docile, submissive females who will basically look to serve them, and two, look to find females who they can pay cheaper than they can a man, and three, have a person who won't push back against them the same way a man will go out here and push back. Because when there are large groups of men in the labor force, what happens in the labor force is that those men wind up going out here and pushing back and looking to further organize their labor by forming unions. And that's something that many of the wealthy don't want. They don't want a man to go out here and, one, look to push back against supervisors, two, look to go out here and collaborate with others to form a union. That's what they don't want here in the American workforce. And that's why many of these people are sitting up here being completely full of it, like House Speaker Mike Johnson, who wants to go out here and say, oh, many of these guys are sitting up in their parents' basements playing video games, and they want to go out here and collect Medicaid at the government's expense. And that whole argument is complete bullshit, because when it comes down to most Americans all across this country, we are mandated to have health care under the Affordable Care Act. And it's not about the whole thing as related to sitting in our homes. No, many of those American men would be out here working even before the Great Recession had there not been an infrastructure put in place to keep American men from being able to get work. That's something that many on the far right don't want to talk about as related to the whole reason why 6 to 7 million American men are completely out of work. No, they don't want to talk about how there was an infrastructure set up by those from the wealthy who are on both the left and the right, and how both sides are trying to take both sides of the argument regarding how those 6 to 7 million American men are not working, and they don't want to talk about how that infrastructure was put in place to keep those American men from not working. No, they don't want to talk about how, again, how the wealthy took the father out of the home and took him out of the leadership position God established. They don't want to talk about how the wealthy manipulated pop programs that were designed to help black men, such as affirmative action, by using them to go out here and hire large populations of women, including white women, who are the number one beneficiary of affirmative action. Nor do they want to talk about how they manipulated affirmative action to go out here and hire mostly black women to emasculate black men and take them out of their position as provider as related to the economy of the black community. Nor do they want to talk about how all of this has basically, over the last 60 years, created an entire infrastructure where women enter the workforce and then now are using their female own group preference to go out here and be able to just discriminate against men on a regular basis in the workforce, something I observed when I was going to hiring pools for the CUNY Civil Service hiring pools for the CUNY office assistant position. This is something I saw regularly being done, where women basically used their female own group preference to go out here and hire women over men, and look to go out here and justify using that female own group preference, basically using their female nature as related to discrimination, to not hire men by looking to push the feminist narrative that women were being oppressed and they were looking to make things equal, even though statistics clearly state that most of the workforce these days is mostly comprised by women, and with most of the workforce being comprised of women, they basically, again, are the majority of the workers, and there's no real balance because many of these women, again, continue to be programmed by colleges and universities to believe that women are being oppressed, when in actuality it's not women being oppressed, it's ironically women participating in discrimination against men. And as women participate in discrimination against men in the hiring market, 6 to 7 million men have been out of work ever since the Great Recession of 2008 and have never been able to return to the workforce due to the infrastructure that has been established by many of these feminist indoctrinated women, which I call the HR brick wall, which manipulates female nature to make women into gatekeepers over the job market. And as they make women into gatekeepers over the job market, they basically use their female nature and their hypergamy to basically gatekeep the entire job market and keep many American men from being able to find stable employment. No, because most of these women basically, again, use their female own group preference and hypergamy, where they look at the status of this unemployed man as being less than them. What these women do is go out here and judge those men based on their emotions as related to how they feel about that man, not based on the qualifications of his skills or his abilities, but how they feel about that man as related to him looking for work and being beneath them. Moreover, what these women do is go out here and also project all of their bad experiences about bad boyfriends, bad husbands that they wound up divorcing, or even anger at the rebellious sons. They project it on many male candidates. This is something I have experienced as related to the CUNY hiring pools, and also dealt with this even in a phone interview I dealt with when I was looking to try to just get a job as a security guard, just to be able to make some money. And in that interview on the phone, I was laughed at because I just wasn't able to find full-time employment with a company, but even, and this woman dismissed my self-employment experience working at SJS Direct and my YouTube experience. Moreover, another woman at around 2007, when I was trying to get that civil service job, dismissed my volunteer work. So a lot of men go out here, we have experience, we have skills, but the whole thing is because you're dealing with a gynocentric human resources infrastructure and a gynocentric hiring pool, what happens is that these women, again, go out of their way as related to their biases to go out here and use their female-owned group preference and also their hypergamy to deny many men an opportunity to find full-time employment. And even worse, we've got some beta males who also subscribe to this whole thing. Again, judging men not on the criteria of their skills, but on how they feel about that man. And that's all because many of these males were socially engineered to be the kinder, gentler, softer male. And again, they don't want to have men in the workforce. That's what's so disingenuous about those on the far right. Many of these individuals on the far right are extremely disingenuous as related to them saying, oh, these men are lazy, these men don't want to work. No, many men like myself, and I've been unemployed for over 15 years as related to working for somebody else. Many of us men wanted to work and still want to work and would work if we're offered a job. But when it comes down to many of these employers, they basically want to hire females because females are cheaper to pay. Moreover, females are extremely submissive and docile and won't push back against things like working overtime and not getting paid for it. They won't push back against people looking to have them working 12 to 16 hours a day. No, men basically value their time, and since they value their time, they're only going to work 8 hours, and if you want extra, you're going to have to pay for extra. And that's what many of these wealthy types don't like about hiring men, is that when a man goes out here, he's going to ensure that he gets the highest wages, 1. 2, he's going to go out here and demand standards as related to the workforce, as related to his safety and his welfare and his mental health. That's why he's going to want to work only 8 hours. And 3, he's going to look to work on other things on the side, like a side hustle. And that upsets many of the wealthy because that means that that man may represent competition. And as that man may represent competition, that's something many of the wealthy don't want to see, because what they want to do is be able to maintain their fiefdom where they believe that they can possibly go on forever. Unfortunately, what they don't see is that as you go out here and hire these women, you're basically creating a sinking ship, because women don't create, women don't innovate, because God made men to build and made men to be the ones who go out here and create. And many of these companies don't want to invest in men, and that's why whole industries like Hollywood are sinking ships because they invested in women, and women want to make girl bosses, but nobody wants to see a girl boss, neither a woman or a man. No, most women want to see a man in a leadership position, and they want to see a man being strong and masculine, but America's wealthy don't want to invest in a masculine man or invest in masculinity, and what they want to do is now create a phony narrative talking about stay-at-home sons. No, these are not stay-at-home sons. These are men who just can't find employment and don't know how to function in many cases, because we wound up socially engineering this kinder, gentler, softer male, a kinder, gentler, softer male that the wealthy wanted, because the wealthy did not want to foster competition and wanted to maintain their dominance over American industries. Unfortunately, what's been happening over the last 60 years is that those old men are starting to become complacent, and as those old men become complacent, America has gone on a decline, and gone on a decline because they didn't want to invest in their men. And since they did not want to invest in their men, what's happening is that America basically is proving God's word to be true. Now, God basically said that he is not mocked, and as a man shall sow, he shall reap. And this is what's happening now, is America reaping what it sowed, greater than what it sowed, later than what it sowed, like the late Charles Stanley said in many of his sermons. Again, God is not mocked. Those who go out of his order will reap chaos. those who go outside of his order will wind up suffering. And none of these people out here can go out here and create phony narratives to even refute that whole point, because many of these whole places like the Wall Street Journal and Fox News want to say this is due to low birth rates. No, this is due to the evil and sin of man and his greed, because these old men who, when they were young, basically wanted to go out here and mock God by going out here and saying, hey, we're going to go out of God's order. We're going to go out here and reshape society. We're going to go out here and try to maintain our world and our standard of living for eons. Now, God has talked about this in the Psalms and the Proverbs as well. These men think that their names are going to go on forever. They believe that their names are going to go on forever. And they believe that their names are going to go on forever, and they're going to be able to maintain their empires. But we see many of their empires crumbling, like Warner Brothers right now, and Disney basically on the brink of collapse, because many of these individuals, again, they wanted to socially engineer this kinder, gentler, softer male, and they wanted to say, oh, he's a stay-at-home son. No, there's not a stay-at-home son. There's an entire infrastructure designed to keep men from being able to go out here and work regularly. There's a whole infrastructure designed to keep men from getting their first jobs and being able to develop that experience that will allow them to build a life. There's a whole infrastructure being designed as related to keeping men out of work. And that whole infrastructure is the reason why you have men, again, not going out here and working for these major companies anymore, and mostly women working for these major companies. No, many men like myself, we do want to go out here and work, and many men basically are not working for these companies, especially a lot of Gen Z men. No, what a lot of men are doing is they have to go out here, and since they can't get a job, they have to go out here and make a job. And a lot of guys are working in the gig economy, or they're working like I am, trying to create their own businesses online, because we can't enter the job market. And I wanted to enter the job market way back in the 90s. And again, this is where I first experienced this whole HR brick wall and didn't even know it. And I only started to become aware of it after I took those civil service tests, and I saw them hiring predominantly women. And as I saw them hiring predominantly women, I understand why many young men are unemployed and basically are out here stuck on Medicaid, because they can't get the job that provides them health care benefits. They can't get the job that provides them a retirement. They can't get stable employment. No, they can't get it because many of the corporate bosses who are wealthy men at the top don't want to see any men come and disrupt their little fiefdom that they have. No, they don't want to see any men come in and compete against them. And ironically, that's the thing that's causing their entire business to sink, because these men basically what they want to do is hoard all this money because they fear their own mortality. They fear their legacies ending, but everybody's legacy is going to end, because the only name that's going to go on is the name of Jesus. And that is what basically flies over the heads of these wealthy men who have compromised with the devil and want to go out here and tell the lie that the devil wants to tell. Oh, these are stay-at-home sons. No, these are men who want to work, because what this guy is doing here is he's working as related to hustling. Again, this guy, Brendan Leal, basically is out here, again, working the only way he can. He's like, hey, if I can't get one of these jobs, I'll just go on Jeopardy and get this money. Again, when men are wanting to work, like myself, I mean, I've been told, oh, you don't want to work. No, I do want to work, but I never get the call back. I never get the call or the offer. And it's not about qualifications. No, it's all about finding the cheapest person you can find, which is the thing that's undermining America. Here in America, we want to find the cheapest person we can find. We want to find somebody who will not challenge any of the management at that company, who will work all these extra hours and allow themselves to be abused and give their best ideas to a company, sadly, like the late Peter David did. Give all your best ideas to somebody else, watch them get rich at your expense, and then you wind up poor and again dying like the late Peter David did. with a whole lot of bills, and they sit there and get rich and don't do anything for you. And many men, basically, again, they wanted to enter the job market, but see, it's not working for them. No, most of these companies, and even the government, all they want to do is hire females. And this is what is happening as related to the market. And what they want to do on the red side is go out here and blame men for things, and then want to go out here and say, oh, it's the Democrats on Fox News. Again, all of that is complete propaganda. All of that is propaganda meant to push a misandrist narrative, and a misandrist narrative from those on the far right saying, oh, these young men who are Gen Z don't want to work. No, that's BS all around, because as a Gen Xer, I see the same game that was run on us by these same individuals. Again, these same individuals who want to go out here and profit at the expense of labor, looking to get labor at a low price. And again, basically don't see how they're paying the price, because again, like God has said in his word, God is not mocked. As a man shall sow, he shall reap. And what America is doing right now, due to its greed, is reaping what it sowed, greater than what it sowed, later than what it sowed, and will continue to suffer, because as you hold back these wages and keep people from investing in your stewards and your men, your society is going into a decline, because you don't want to invest in your men. That's why you got a man crisis right now in this country. That's why you got men struggling right now in this country, because you didn't want to invest in them when they were boys. You didn't want their fathers on the job. You didn't want their fathers at the side of their son teaching them a work ethic. You didn't want the fathers in this home modeling a work ethic for your sons. And then you want to go out here and say, oh, they're stay-at-home sons, they're lazy. No, you get what you put in. That's the whole thing with life. You get what you put in. You didn't want to put anything in your men deliberately, because you wanted to go on forever. And now we are at a point where America may be at the cusp of falling like the Roman Empire, because those who are wealthy, again, like those Gilded Age types, don't want to understand that your time in the sun is going to pass. And we're not about this life. We are about the next life with Christ. And again, these people basically want to hold on to their wealth and live forever here on earth as related to the paradise that they believe they've created, not understanding that there is a greater paradise established by God, again, in his kingdom for everyone. But because these people don't want to submit to God, they want to create their own world here, and again, make everybody miserable in their company. They basically have destroyed everything as related to their entire infrastructure, because your society is based on two things going on. One is the service of God. Two is the investment in God's steward, the man. And three, I would also say that it's also the youth, because without many of these companies, they don't invest in their youth. And that's what's seen with these Marvel Cinematic Universe movies and all these remakes. You're going against everything that was established, and you're hoping to make things work. And that's the definition of insanity, because every civilization has done this, from the Egyptians, the Babylonians, the Israelites, again, and the Romans. And it's doing the exact same thing and expecting a different result. But the root of everything is money, and the greed as related to it. That's what's leading to the decline. But there are, as I see it, no real stay-at-home sons. No, there's guys who wanted to work, guys with college degrees who were told, oh, you can make this kind of money. But when they go out here and look to apply for jobs, what they run into is this wall that is basically reinforced with AI and other technologies that employers want to use to not be able to pay labor. No, what they're looking to do is say, oh, these guys are lazy, they've got AI girlfriends. These are generalizations. No, you didn't want to put no money in these men, but what you wanted to do is get these women to be consumers. The women are bogged down in debt from student loans, but you don't want the men to come back and push back and create a structure of accountability or responsibility. And that's why I have no sympathy for the wealthy and those on the far right, because what's happening to them is what is put in the Word of God about reaping what you sow, greater than what you sow, later than what you sow, and basically all these wealthy people, when they wind up going completely bankrupt like their Gilded Age ancestors, will have gotten what they deserve because they wanted to live extravagant and lavish lifestyles but didn't want to invest their resources in the men or give them the wages that they deserve, and they basically got what they deserve as related to things. But you can't make the excuse that many of these men are stay-at-home sons when you didn't go out here and give them any reason to go out here and work in the first place. Now, if you want to learn why so many men are out of work and why so many men are struggling these days, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to help me be able to continue with the SJS Direct imprint, which I had to start after I lost my job in 2008, you can continue to pick up books in the SJS Direct imprint, whether they be fiction or nonfiction, so I can continue staying and continuing to write works that present men's issues and show you the actual picture of what's going on with men, and also write some great fiction like the ISIS series, the Steam series, the John Haynes series, and many of my other books. And you can also help out the channel by going out here and dropping a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Esteemed Season of the Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed, all-new Esteemed series adventure. Pick up your copy of Esteemed Season of the Witch Girl in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA, from the Black Boule, in this all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.